Hello and welcome to a tutorial on the highway triggers for coastal out of bounds. Starting right off with door 1, this trigger is typically hit in bounds before doing the second launch.
Whoa! What just happened? I think the engineer found a way to extend its shields.
From here, the triggers for the doors need to be hit in particular ways, and for the most part they are all slightly different. While the triggers themselves extend quite far out of bounds, hitting the trigger at the wrong spot will cause you to be teleported back in bounds. If this happens, make sure to pause and revert before you get a checkpoint, while back in bounds. If you get the checkpoint, you'll need to double revert to get back out of bounds. Make sure to ease off the gas while taking these corners. Taking too wide a turn will cause you to incorrectly hit the trigger and get sucked in bounds. The trigger at door 2 is simply hit by driving through the middle of the top of the door. At each door you'll know when you've hit a trigger either because of a split triggering on the in-game timer or by seeing Buck teleport to the doorway below you. At door 3 a load needs to be hit. Simply jump on the side platform or on the sloped part to hit the load. The trigger at the door is hit by driving through the middle. Use the time you spend out of the hog to make sure you have your rockets reloaded. The trigger at door 4 needs to be hit while out of the hog. Park your hog as close as you can where the trigger is hit. To hit this trigger, simply walk anywhere between these two vertical lines. Return to your vehicle and drive down and around or reverse back down the door until you can cross through the middle to the other side. The trigger at door 5 can be hit by driving through the middle, but be very careful not to take the corner into the trigger too tightly. Notice I avoid taking a sharp turn here. The trigger at door 6 can be hit by driving through the middle. On Legendary, take note if you get a checkpoint just before this door, as you may choose to revert if you take lots of health damage from the Banshees.
Buck, Scarab. I see it. Must have dropped out from one of those cruisers. Just keep driving. It hasn't spotted us.
The trigger at door 7 can be hit by driving around the far side. Aim to slow down nearly to a complete stop before attempting to drive the trigger. Stay close to the wall and drive down and around following the curvature of the wall while trying to keep your four wheels on the ground. Slow down or speed up so that you are at a medium pace when trying to climb this small ridge. Alternatively, you can drive your hog down onto this part of the ramp. A safer way to hit the trigger is to park the hog and walk into the trigger somewhere between these two lines. You can then drive down and around or back up and drive through the loop. On Legendary, you would typically want to drive through the trigger at door 7 as fast as possible so you can get a checkpoint close to door 8, and to help ensure you hit the trigger at door 8 before Dare and the engineer die.
Tank up ahead. We need the extra firepower.
Get out of the hog to hit a load slightly down the ramp.
There's the tank. Let's take it.
Drive to the trigger and walk straight on into the middle of the black vertical stripe. Back up along the door or drive down and around. This is the last convenient time to make sure that the rockets are reloaded. You can park and walk along this path to hit the trigger at door 9.
10 o'clock high. At the size of that thing. High. At the size of that thing.
You can also drive the hog along this white stripe to hit the trigger.
Assault carrier. 10 o'clock high. At the size of that thing.
Drive in a north-northeast direction until you see the arch appear over the edge. When driving over the edge, turn slightly to the left and hold the handbrake until you land. The trigger at door 10 can be hit by parking the hog and walking down the left side of the ramp. Then turn and walk into the black vertical stripe. To drive through the trigger, make sure you leave a small gap between the hog and the wall, then drive down and around. The trigger at door 11 can be hit by driving through the middle. The trigger at door 12 can be hit by driving around the side. Turn to the right and then drift off the door into the highway. Make sure that you hold the handbrake the whole time. This helps to land wheels down. Dropping down near the door hits another trigger. Park the hog at the wall and shoot a rocket by the front left tire. Use SMG or a second rocket to help get it over. Drive to the top of the stairs and kill the 2 grunts. Grab ammo before returning to the hog. You can help Dare along by first moving this yellow truck out of the way. Push it at a slow speed.
Area secure. Veronica, come to us. We'll cover you. Mickey, what's your ETA? Had to reroute, Gunny. The whole damn city's on
Then
fire.
slowly push Dare to the holdout area.
Tier 1 asset and a whole bunch of Covenant that want it dead. Whatever you gotta do, step on it.
Yes, ma'am.
For Legendary, there are a couple of additional factors to consider. At door 8, you can use rockets to help survive the Banshees. Aim very slightly below the middle of the Banshee. This route is fast but risky. You, Dare, and the engineer can all die before you get to the trigger. Once you hit the trigger, you can wait for a checkpoint and wait for the Banshees to turn around before getting back into the hog. Note, the Banshees very often miss their shots when you are out of the hog.
We're gonna need that tank.
The safer approach is to go straight to the trigger. Note, by the time you hit the trigger, the Banshees have often turned away.
There's the tank. Let's take it. Captain's
You
right.
still need to go back for the load, so park the hog in a safe spot, walk to the load, and walk back. The Banshees are unlikely to kill you. Make sure you have lost Banshee aggro before getting back into the hog. On Legendary, Dare and the Engineer can often die between doors 10 and 11. One thing that seems to help keep them alive is to distract or kill the Furod Chieftain. One rocket aimed here will alter the Chieftain's pathing. 2 rockets aimed here will kill the Chieftain. Even with the Chieftain dead, Dare and the Engineer can still die. Be cognizant of your rocket ammo as well, as you may not have enough rockets by this stage, unless you grabbed extra rocket ammo before the highway. For completeness, I'll show you how to hit the trigger at door 1 while out of bounds. This is typically done for acrophobia runs. Line up with and walk into the black vertical stripe before continuing on to the rest of the highway.